Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. My name's Peter, and it is the 20th of July, and today is Houdini release day. Oh, my camera's way down low there. That's funny. Huh. Let me fix that. Hold on. What's happening here? Maybe I'm just sitting too low? No, there we go. Weird. Anyways, hi. I was down in the depths there for a second. Yeah, so today is Houdini release day. So happy Houdini release. Hopefully everybody is enjoying some of the new features. I'm just going to tilt my camera down, so give me 1 second here. Pardon me. There we go. Okay. So yeah, so there's a bunch of new features. I was just playing around with some while I was waiting for the stream to start, just playing with some SOP flips stuff, which is fun. Yeah, so we got 19.5 today. Hello. Hi, Zach. Nice to have you with us today. As you can see, my internet is not causing craziness, so it's kind of wonderful. Makes me happy. Ooh, my microphone's loose. There we go. Sorry for my terrible audio in that little update video that I posted, but hopefully it was bearable to some extent. And hopefully my audio is not bad tonight. I checked it and made sure that the right microphone should be going to it. So, yeah. Anyways. So yeah, we've got, kind of want to do some keeping local variables alive. It's all about the money, the dollar signs. Yes. It's all about the money. Yes, I do have a shiny new install. I do have the wonderful luxury of being able to test it out before it gets sent out and when it's still crazy buggy and crashing all the time and stuff. But so I've gotten to play around with a little bit, so I've had a few different things here and there that I got to play with over the past few months. Mostly the Solaris USD stuff because that's what I'm training on. So doing a lot of that thing, which really isn't all that exciting when you're talking about just straight up USD. Some of the Solaris stuff is pretty neat. That's new in here. So, but yeah, so I'm excited to be able to talk about some of this stuff. I think what I'm going to do next week is probably do the new flip SOP workflow and kind of talk about how that works and stuff like that. But if you guys haven't seen that, just as because I know that's like one of the big new things that they were talking about. If you've watched the release, if you look, obviously there's a new flip menu here, and there's a bunch of cool configure things. Yeah, that'll be next week. I'll probably do that, like I said. But there's some really cool things here because like some of the shelf tools have been built in here, like the beach tank and like a wave, like just a regular tank, a wave tank, just some stuff like that have been created. But I'll just drop down like this flip here real quick. And so that's what I had in my scene beforehand. And you can see here that they've got kind of this 3-node or 3 input output workflow that's going on from before. or from previous kind of like Vellum and Pyro didn't really use that workflow so much, but it's just a little different the way that things work in here with different like boundary conditions and things like that sound really scary and crazy. But you can see that this whole like flip solver here, which has like actually like varying viscosity and stuff, is actually pretty small from like a setup standpoint. Like it's all kind of contained in this setup here that's not really that many nodes. So hopefully this will make flip and dops and things like that a little bit more palatable if you're not used to it. So next week I'll kind of come up with something that'll be interesting with that, because I've played around with it a little bit, but I haven't really gotten to like dive into it and like understand every intimate detail. But if you saw any of the release stuff, there's some really cool stuff where you can like do moving boundaries and all these different things. So it's pretty neat. So anyways, yeah, so Jack was mentioning like material X and karma. That is something I definitely could talk about. Kin effects, I am not an expert on that, but I've actually been thinking about having one of the guys or asking one of the guys that does some of our training on the education team he's amazing with KineFX. He was actually part of the dev team that did some of the old rigging stuff, and now he's been doing character effects for forever, or character like rigging and stuff like that. So I've actually been thinking about maybe I should ask him to come on and do some KineFX stuff, just talk about it and like have that stuff. So that's something I'm kind of thinking about for the future. And I literally know very little about cops, mostly because that is a kind of an old thing that hasn't really been touched in a while, and I haven't really gotten in there. But I would definitely love to know more about those things, but I'm not an expert at those, and probably wouldn't. You would. Yeah, the labs tools are really cool. Actually, the funny thing is like for me, I was just watching the presentation today, and that was some of the first that I'd seen some of those. Like they weren't like heavily announcing those. Like it wasn't in like the what's new section of the Houdini documentation, so I hadn't really even seen those. But yeah, like the curve cutter is really, really cool. That was a neat one. And just some of the new features like with the curve tool and things like that, great, really great addition. So maybe we'll play around with that a little bit too. Maybe what we'll do is I'll just do a little bit of Karma and Material X. We can talk about that. Maybe look at some of the new nodes, because I haven't played with those either. So that'd be kind of fun to get in there and like mess with the curvature and things like that, and just kind of see what generally is happening in there. And then maybe we'll play around with some labs tools and things like that. The one thing that seemed really interesting was they were using that like curve. What was it called? It was called something like the curve. Oh, it was like, I think it was polywire with like the curve with UVs or something like that. Polywire UV or something like that. It had like an output with the curves that came through with it, which was pretty neat. Like it actually has like you could throw that into KineFX and actually like mess with it and stuff like that. So that was pretty interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of great new labs tools, but I mean, labs, they're always coming out with new stuff. Those guys are wild. If you don't follow my online, let me see if I can. I'll have to find his. When I get a second, I'll find his Twitter handle. But Mai is awesome, and he is one of the guys on the labs team. And if you don't follow him on Twitter or whatever, you should definitely do that, because he's always posting really cool stuff when it comes to labs. So yeah, let's do some Karma stuff, I guess. Karma Material X. That should be fun. All right, I'll switch over to the Solaris desktop. If you guys are ever working in, like Solaris, USD kind of world, it's usually best to switch your desktop, or at least create your own that's got some stuff in it. And because really the things that you're looking for in Solaris are a lot different. So let's just, I don't know, I'll just build like a kind of simple scene. Let's just do like a grid, and I'll probably just like deform this for the background here. This is a SOP create node. So inside of it is an actual SOP network with a grid. So I'm just gonna divide that a little bit more. Let's see here. We'll do it in this axis. I always forget which axis is which. Let's do like a bend here. And I will that's collapsed. That's weird. I'm gonna set the capture region and just snap to some points here so I can get my capture region. There we go. And then we can bend it up like so. And then I'll actually just move this through a little bit. Maybe it's like there. Oh, don't need that to be snapping anymore. Cool. So let's do something like that. That'll just be like a backdrop for us. I'll just do an output here so we always get that. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I mean, I've probably talked about it before, but the output node is kind of nice when you're working in like things like this, where it's trying to find like your whatever source like the last node in your network or whatever, because it'll always output from that node. It's not like a null, putting a null at the end of your chain or whatever, and like worrying about if your display flag is set. It'll always go to that output node. So that's kind of a nice little bonus thing there. So if you don't use that, it's kind of a nice thing to use in these instances. The only thing is, if you want to change it and change your display flag and have it come out here, then it won't happen. So anyways, all right, cool. So here we've got our scene graph tree. This is kind of like our working setup in Solaris. This is the USD scene graph. So let's just rename this like backdrop or something. It's going to update. Oh, is it really? Extra crunchy on the audio. Interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry about that. That's probably why. Does that sound better? I will wait for your response. Hopefully that's better. Keep going. Okay. Hopefully, that is really strange. I'll let you know. Okay. Let me just make sure that I have my stuff set properly here. Get out of here. All right, I know what I'm gonna do. Give me one second. I will update one other thing here. Let's see if that's any. Oh, that's interesting. Check. Maybe that's better. Seems better. Okay, great. I'll take it. Sorry about that. That's so weird. Also, it seems like I'm only coming out of one ear here. That's really strange. Gosh. That should be like that. There we go. That's probably better. Okay, let's give that a shot. I won't have any like noise reduction or whatever, but hopefully it won't be too annoying. Anyways, let's keep going. Okay, so this is your scene graph tree here. We have our primitive here, and this is basically a transform primitive. This is like almost like if you're coming from like maybe C4D or Maya or something like this is kind of like your outliner or your object manager in C4D. So this, you can't like drag and drop stuff in here, but this conceptually is like that. So in this case, this is just like a null would be in those where you're grouping stuff underneath it and things like that. So, so this mesh is actually what's holding all the information. So anyways, so let's do some stuff here. Let's, why don't I grab geometry? I'll do another stop create here. Thank you, Tom, for that update on my audio. I appreciate that. I'd rather it not sound like garbage. All right, so we're going to go in here. I'm going to do a file node, and I'm just going to grab something from my resources. I think I have some scans. Yep, sculptures. Let's just grab one of these. Great, that's good. I got to figure out a better way to like monitor this audio stuff because I hear it through my my whatchamacallit, my audio interface, and I can't, like, it sounds great to me, but I can never tell what's actually going to OBS. It's really a pain. So anyways, all right, let's do something here. Sure, look at that eagle. Great. Let's do a match size and just get that working. Scale to fit. I don't want it to be gigantic like that. Cool. So that's a little bit better. Let's do this maybe 2 by 2 by 2, and then I'm just going to do a transform and move this over. And so, oops. If you're kind of new to using Solaris or any of this kind of stuff, the kind of working way of doing this is to kind of make your geometry in SOPs and then bring it into Solaris and just do that. Like that's basically the working way of doing this. So so for example here, what you're seeing is this is building this scene graph, and here we've got this crazy eagle mesh working 01, eagle mesh 04. That's the path attribute in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do attribute delete and just get rid of that path because it's trying to like figure out where to put that stuff. And I don't want that. So let's get rid of that path. And now we're in a much better spot here. That's a much more normal looking USD path right there. So let's call this eagle statue. Cool. All right, so we got our eagle statue and our mesh. And here, I'll show you another little thing that you can do here. If we select both of these and add onto the path here, geo maybe, and do geo/os, this will actually group them together underneath this geo. And so then you've got kind of some nicer hierarchy going on in your scene. So we've got our geometry here. So let's take a look at what we might want to do here. So probably want to do something basic for the backdrop, and maybe we'll grab some lights and do some filtering and do some, there's a bunch of new stuff with all of that, which I don't even know completely, so we can play around with that for sure. So let's do a material library. We'll drop this in here. Let's do a material, we'll do a material linker. That's kind of more fun UI. Let's grab a couple lights in here. Let's do a light. Let's do an area light. And I'm going to use the tools that we've got available here. Let's turn this to like that so that we can actually see what we're looking at. And so when you have the light tool selected here. Oh, hey, nice to have you on the stream. Yeah, we're just kind of doing a viewer's choice today. I was going to do that yesterday with a little update. Instead, I put the update video out, and now we're just kind of going around. So right now, we're just messing around with some Karma XPU stuff, maybe talking about some of the new features in here. There's some new shaders and things like that that work with Material X and Karma. So we're going to look at that stuff, I guess, today. So, and then maybe look at some new labs tools and see how they work. So kind of just a viewer's choice, kind of whatever you guys want to learn. I mean, usually that's what it is anyways, but, you know, this time I didn't really have anything planned. So, all right. So one of the cool things you can do here is you can set up things like we could have the diffuse. We can adjust that. So here we can just place the diffuse highlight and we can get it to come off like that maybe. So that will put our diffuse over there. And you can see here as well, there's like, there's some other things that we can do here, like control and click will adjust the distance for the light, and the brightness is control shift, and that'll, you know, change the brightness. Now, if I go back to this, we might see, there we go. Yep. So we're getting our brightness adjustment there. And let's do maybe like a point light on the other side, and we'll just have, or no, maybe I'll do another area light. Let's do that. And this is like the stuff that makes, I think, Solaris really fun for doing like lighting and look dev stuff, is that you can use these tools to like really do some interesting stuff. So let's grab a camera here too while we're at it. Throw a camera in there. There it is. Just so we have like a common frame of reference. Oh, in this case, we do need to be in the camera to actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just move this up here so it's a little earlier in the scene. There we go. And then we can come down here, and I'm going to adjust this light. I'm going to do the specular. I want the specular to maybe hit, you know, somewhere back in here, or maybe just like on his head somewhere up here. I don't know, somewhere like in there. Sounds good. And then let's do control shift, and we'll just kind of adjust that a little bit, maybe like that. Cool. So we're just getting some basic stuff going here. And then let's do a Karma node as well. One of the new things in 19.5 is that they've changed the way this looks. If you, yeah, cool, good, yeah. I mean, I'm a little biased. I am kind of one of the things is like, yeah, we teach how to use Karma in our coursework and stuff like that, but yeah, like Karma XPU is becoming faster and faster, and same with regular CPU, and really the feature sets are getting pretty awesome. I think like they're really, all right, thank you. They're really doing a lot to kind of bring the XPU fully featured with the CPU version. So okay, so we've got some stuff controlled here. So this is making lights. We've got our geo, we've got our cameras here, and we've got render settings that get saved in here. So now you can see we've built up like a nice hierarchy here. And anytime you see like this where it says scope, that just basically means that that's like an empty like hierarchy primitive. These are, each line here is considered a primitive in USD. So these are all primitives that it's creating. And yeah, so when we get down here, our render settings are actually saved in a primitive. So we can save the scene out and all that kind of stuff, but we're just going to be rendering it. So it doesn't really matter. All right, so we're on CPU here, but why don't we switch it over to XPU? One thing you'll notice is that the samples change now, which is really nice. So like 9 samples for CPU is like equivalent to like 128 for XPU. If you've ever used any like GPU versus CPU renderers, like for example, Arnold has that where like you go over to their GPU version and it's like a million more samples. It's like 20 times the samples kind of a thing. So it's sort of the same thing going on here. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. We don't quite need that many. We'll do like, let's do 64. Okay, great. So then we can come up here and change this to Karma. And this should now jump right into XPU. And from this, yeah, we're starting to get something going on here. And we can do, let's see, we can just kind of adjust the intensity of these lights and just kind of tweak that a little bit. Let's see, we'll have this light get a little brighter as well. Something like that. Cool. So the one thing that you'll notice is that for XPU, there's these 2 different modes here that it has. And so obviously it has the optics, which is your GPU, and then your CPU as well. When I jump back above this Karma render settings, you'll see that it does change, you know, its mode or whatever. So if you're not highlighted at this level of your node network, it won't see those Karma render settings, and it'll be kind of like a little confused. If you're up at this level here, so like if I'm looking at this node, I can hit D on the viewport, and that'll bring up just the viewport render options. This is a little different. This isn't like getting saved or anything like that, but it's the same concept. So if you don't want to drop down to render settings, you can just use these as well, and this will change between the CPU engine and the XPU engine here. And you can see they look almost exactly the same, except XPU is like a million times faster. So anyways, so here we are. One thing too to note when you're looking at this in your, this dropdown is that the render settings here can actually be changed depending. So like viewport settings, or like you can change it to render settings. I wonder if that'll make it so that it doesn't switch around. Yeah, it looks like it will. So now it'll actually keep that, I think. No, it's probably still looking at this one. Yeah, exactly. But that's a way, so you could have different render settings in you could have like a few of these Karma render settings. So like here we could do like another Karma node and drop it in there. Oh, that's a little unfortunate. I guess you could just search Karma render settings instead. And like I could do like this CPU maybe. It's throwing an error because I think it was naming those the same. There's like a collision there. So now we have this. So what we could do here is do XPU like this. And so now we have XPU and CPU. And so I could change this one over, or it is already CPU, and this one's XPU. And so now what we could do here is actually have, you could switch it to different render settings if you wanted to. Like when we get down to this node, we could see that there's going to be multiple ones. So if we wanted to have all of our render settings and, at the end of something and switch it dynamically like that to see the difference, those render settings will kind of live on and you can switch back and forth just like that. So many different ways to do things in USD. It's a really flexible workspace. There's no real like right or wrong way to do things. Like this is just like a suggested hierarchy. There's not really like you have to do it this way. Things will become more and more standardized over time, but just for right now, that's how that's working. And if anybody has any questions about what I'm doing, just drop them in chat. Like whatever if I'm like not explaining something properly, drop it in chat. I'm not, I'm never going to claim to be the end all be all expert in any of this stuff. In fact, I'm certainly not at Karma and look dev and all that kind of stuff, but I have been doing quite a bit in USD, so I can definitely explain that any better if you would like. So anyways, let's drop another light in here. Just this is too dark over here. So let's grab this. I'm going to turn this back to the GL. And yeah, let's drop another light in here. I'm just going to do another area light. Make sure it's wired in properly. When you do it like that, it does actually jump you into the light itself. So now I could use it like this, like as like a look at kind of thing. Like, okay, this is where the light's going to be, and I can position it in my scene as needed. And I'm going to go back through the camera. Cool. All right, let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks a little better. Cool. All right, so we're getting somewhere here. Let's take a look at these shaders, right? Let's make some shaders because we want to talk about Material X, right? So first of all, I should probably make the note of saying that this isn't the only way that you can do stuff in Solaris, like in a straight chain like this. There's many other ways that you could do things. Just know the one thing that I like to caution people about is using a merge node in here is very different than what you would expect in standard Houdini world. In here, the merge node, there's multiple different modes for this basically, and it gets really complicated, and you can actually like overwrite things and do some weird duplication of stuff if you're not using it properly. It can kind of do some weird stuff. So it's at this point the simple merge works more or less the way you'd expect it to, but if you're trying to make USD like that you're sending out to other people, you can definitely goof yourself up with using the merge node. So just know that this using a merge like this is usually best to like I'm going to turn off Karma just so I don't do anything too weird here. Go away. Okay, so like the best way of using this would be like to take all of those and maybe like your cameras and maybe this stuff here and just put them in like this. Oops. So like take this and this and this and spit those all into there like that. That's really the best way of doing that. It's going to create the same scene. The only thing that it does some differences in is how, like if you were to save this to disk, how that's all going to work and look, and like where those files are going to get saved and stuff like that. So that's more in the USD world, but I'd kind of be doing you a disservice if I didn't at least mention some of those things of like why I'm doing it all in a line like that. It's just kind of a little bit more of the standard workflow in here. So, or at least for like doing some simple stuff like this. Obviously you'll branch out and do a whole bunch of different stuff when you get into more complicated scenes, but just doing something simple like this is just fine. Okay. So material library, let's jump in there. There should be, if I'm remembering correctly, there should still be, let's see. Hold on. Yeah. Should be a Karma Material X subnet here. And what this should have inside of it is the ability to have everything filtered by only stuff that will go to Material X, or that will work in Material X and be applicable with Karma. So we can see all these different things in here that are, things that Karma will respect and that are also Material X as well. So it should be said that some of the things in here will not work with just any. I'm just getting rid of everything because I'm not probably going to have displacement in here, but that's our surface output that we could do, that'll go up to the next level. So we're going to leave that, but let's just do a standard surface and we'll just put the out into there. And that's kind of our standard surface kind of Uber shader in here. And so let's just do that, and I'll just duplicate that. I'll just say, I'll just call this like default or something like that. Just this is kind of our basic setup. And then we'll do an eagle and we'll copy this and grab background like that. Okay, cool. So let's just do the background first since we know that's going to be probably pretty simple. Maybe I'll just make it like some just real simple basic color. Maybe like something in like, like a creamish color. I don't know, something like that. Ooh. My computer's doing something. It's not happy with me. What's going on here? Give me 1 second. Sorry. Just troubleshooting something here. It looks like... looks like I'm rendering still, maybe? There we go. That was weird. Oh, sorry if I blew everybody's eardrums out. It looks like Karma got kind of like stuck on in the background or something, which is interesting. So it was like running at like 100%. So if you ever get something like that where something weird is happening with your renderer, you can just, there's a couple things in here that'll help restart the renderers or do things like that, which in this case, it shouldn't have been started anyway. So now we're back off. My CPU was running at 100%. I was like, why is everything happening? So I like couldn't change the colors in here. I was like, why is this going so slow? Okay, so let's just do like maybe like a creamish color for like the background, just something like that. I don't know. Cool. All right, so let's go down here. So we have the material library here, and this by default will bring in your materials. Like it'll bring them in and assign them as their name. So here we can see under materials, we've got background, default, and eagle. So then we can come down to this material linker. And what I like to do is turn this off because in small scenes, this can make things a little crazy. It'll base your select, like your it'll filter the center part based on what you have selected, and it can get real confusing. So I know we're going to use the background and the eagle. And so let's just copy that over, and then I'll drop this in here. So that'll assign that to the backdrop, and then this will get added to the eagle statue. So that's cool. Let me hide that over on my other screen. And then if we come down here and take a look at this render, let's throw this back into Karma and look through our camera. Sometimes it takes a second for the XPU to like kick on and start up. I think it has to compile the shaders, I think is what it's doing. So usually that's like a one-time like hit on your render time or whatever. So the other thing too is at first it'll seem really slow because it'll be like, wait, why is this taking so long to start up? But once you do start it up and you start, moving around in your scene, you'll see that it's insanely fast. So if your optics is idle, that means that it's not using your GPU at all to render. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, so that is obviously we're starting to get some stuff going on in here. Let's just name these because I'm going to get confused as to which is which. So let's see. This is, we'll call this key light. This is backlight. This is fill light. Okay, cool. So let's kick up the backlight a little bit, I think. Let's just grab the exposure and just give that a little bit. Because I want to just try the subsurface. I actually haven't really like done that too much in here. Where is that? Where's that guy even? Oh, that's kind of in a weird spot, isn't it? Huh. Those are strange spots for those. Let's see. Maybe I had it kind of go in a weird direction. So let's go back to the camera. Let me grab this backlight, and I'm just going to hit escape and enter just to kind of initialize that control. And let's just grab this specular back here because I really want it to be, back here somewhere. So let's see. Yeah, something like that is kind of interesting. Sure. And then the fill light should be like over here or something. And let's do this. Just adjust the brightness. And then I am going to transform that up a little bit, or translate it up just so it's in a decent spot here. Oh, the other thing too I should do is these are kind of on the small side. So, oh, that's weird. Let me just reset that. I don't know why that's in such a weird spot. Let's see here. So let's do diffuse. Oh, I know why, because I was editing the diffuse, not the, or I was editing the specular, not the diffuse. There we go. So now it's way too bright. My bad. Let me just reset these. Then I can just crank the exposure up here. And obviously, as you can see, these are we're working at a pretty good clip here. It's definitely not slow by any means. Even if we switched it over to CPU, you'll see that you get some pretty good response there. It's not going to be quite as fast to resolve those final pixels, but it is technically more full-featured, the CPU engine. But anyways, they're pretty close to being on par now. So there we go. There is our back to our XPU. Sorry. Let's see here. So let's change up the eagle. I want to play around with the subsurface real quick and just see what that looks like. So let's kick that up. Okay. That's looking nice. Okay. I think we want to turn the base down if I'm not mistaken, because we don't want to have the base rendering in there. Oh, must be calculating that. Looks like we've got, so it's probably updating this shader, you know, it's recompiling probably that shader to put it into, because right now we're only using CPU and now the GPU is kicking in. So that's kind of like the thing to keep in mind is like, if you're seeing this mostly on the CPU, that's kind of like your key to like, hey, this is not exactly working the way I wanted it to. So now we should be able to really more interactively mess around with some of these things. So yeah, so we've got Subsurface working just fine here. That's nice. And let's see here. Kind of interesting. We could have it scatter some color through it like that. Kind of fun. And this should make it so that it either like scatters forward more or scatters. Yeah, this should be like forward scattering, I think, kind of a thing. And then this will be more just like complete random scattering inside of it. So yeah, so that's cool. Okay, Subsurface. Look at that. That was one thing that was really missing from XPU before. And I should just mention as well that you know, these aren't the cleanest renders here, right? Like we've got some noise going on in there. If we go down to Karma render settings and look at the, well, let's first of all change this back to 128. That'll get us maybe a little closer with this. It should only take, you know, a few seconds to really finish. Yeah, 6 seconds. I mean, I think we can live with that. I mean, you could probably even bring this up to 256 and it's only going to take probably like 12 seconds, right? So it seems like it's pretty linear with that as far as like sampling and how many, you know, how many it takes to kind of how much it scales or whatever. But the other thing too is we have different, like we could get the light quality maybe a little higher. And that's going to obviously kick up the render time a little bit as well. And now I think that's resampling the lights and pushing and kind of recompiling some of those shaders and lights and things like that in the scene. So just doing, I think, a quick update there as we're, because I'm just kind of in mass changing the light sample quality here. You can see, obviously we were just doing CPU. It's going to take quite a bit longer, but there we go. Optics kicked in. And that should hopefully give us a couple more samples in there, clean it up a little bit more as well. The other thing that we can use here is yep, that's another thing. We don't have our subsurface all the way up here, so we'll do that, and that should give us a little more subsurface rays and things like that. So I think that's the ray limit. So that should give us more. And also we'll set this back to maybe just 1 for right now. It's obviously even adjusting that quite a bit more. So we could go back into our material here and just kind of play around with the subsurface scale. And, you know, maybe we even turn that down a little bit. let's see. I'm just going to revert this to defaults just so I can see what that looks like. Yeah, cool. So yeah, obviously we've got some of that working in there now. Just change that back to like 0.5. Let's mess around with something else. Let's get in some of these like curvature shaders and things like that and see if we can play around with those, because those are kind of neat as well. So in this case, I should be able to, let me just set this back. I'll turn the subsurface off, turn the base back on. It's going to just recompile that. Hopefully shouldn't take as long because subsurface probably takes a little while longer to compile. There we go. Cool. All right. So we got that started. Let's take a look at these other things in here. So we have our light filters. Those are kind of interesting. You can use those. Those won't work here, obviously, but on light filters, you can add gobos and, you know, barn doors and things like that, which is pretty neat. And then there's some stuff for OCIO, which is great. And then here are some of our curvature things. So let's see here. I got to think about how to do that. Let me make sure that there's normals on this. And okay, kind of don't know if there are. Let's see. Oh, there are normals. Perfect. In USD, the way that you look at what's on your geometry, if you're in like Karma world here, which is USD world, if we select, say, this eagle statue, we can see here in our scene graph details, these are all the attributes that are copied on there. They call them primvars in USD, but basically the same thing. But one of the main things is that things get renamed. So like the point position, just P in Houdini gets changed over to points. So if we look at points, you can see that these are all the point positions. And then normals is N, gets changed to normals. And anything that isn't if you have like a custom attribute or whatever, that's going to get this primvars label right here. So just a little kind of thing to keep in mind when if you're working in Karma and you like want to bring attributes in. So what I'm thinking it needs is the points and normals to do that, because I was looking at the inputs and I don't completely know what the what the appropriate thing here is, but let's do this. So we've got P and N. So let's see if I can do this. I think if I bring in primvar, yep, that should be right. And so this should be, I'm guessing, points, and this should be normals. Yep. And this should be they should both be vectors. Vector. Cool. All right. Points to P to N. And let's see. Can we get like a... let's see if this will adjust it here. Oh, curvature is not supported by XP. How did I miss that? I thought it did. I thought it was. That's okay. Guess it's just a CPU thing for now. So let's go back to regular CPU and we'll let that do its thing. We'll see if that's working. In fact, you know what I'll do instead? Maybe I'll do something like a little more obvious. I'll get like a different colored material and have these layer them. Nope, that's not it. Material X. Sorry, I just gotta find where they have like a layer or a combining thing in here. Let's No, not a switch. Interesting. Not sure where we would get that. I'm sorry, hold with me. Just trying to figure this one out. It's interesting. Very interesting. I guess maybe what I could do would be like a mix. Is there a mix? Yeah, maybe I'll do that and just spit that into a yeah, let's do this. This will be easy enough to figure out. I don't know if why I can't do that, but that's okay. All right, so here's the base color, and this one I'll do as like a red, and then this one I'll do as, I don't know, a blue. Getting anything here? Let's see. Oh yeah, I think some of it's coming through there. Maybe I see some things changing. Interesting. I'm not sure why we're not getting that. Let me think about that for a second. Let's see if there's something else we can play around with here. The rounded edge, this one actually is not going to be very good for. Let me think. What else do we have in here that's interesting that we've added? Well, one of the cool things that they've added in is a color ramp. See, I wish this was working. Gosh darn it. Because then you could actually see this color ramp. But this is something, anytime you see this little icon here in Material X, basically that's something that Material X doesn't technically support, but the guys in the rendering team have kind of shoehorned a way to get some Material X compatible things out using some Houdini stuff as well. This wouldn't work in any other renderer other than Karma, but once Material X does have ramps, like that's one of the big stumbling blocks with Material X is it doesn't have ramps. So once it does have ramps, the team will switch over to that to use the Material X ramp, and it'll look basically the same. But at this point, it's kind of just like they're just plugging a hole with some custom stuff. Same thing with this curvature. This wouldn't work in any other renderer other than Karma. So now these other Material X nodes do, the ones that just have the plain Material X logos on them. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Let me see here. Actually, you know what? Let me just go back and make a new subnetwork here. Karma Material X. Let me just see what this... Okay, this is the inputs. Oh, you know what? Maybe if I do the inputs here, that might actually do better for us. Let me try building this up a level or at a different level. Let me do this. So we'll do this standard surface. Oh, we still got karma going here. Let me just kill that for a second. So if I do this and need a collect node, that will collect all my shaders in it. If I have like a displacement and all that kind of stuff, it'll collect them all together. So let's see if this works up here any better. SD prim var reader. Yep. And var name is points. That is vector. And normals is a vector. Oh. See, that's part of the problem there, is that if you don't do it in that network and you do curvature, you can see you have two different ones. This is the old curvature one that works with mantra, and this is the one that works with karma. So just a little gotcha there. Let's see if this works any better. I don't know if it will, but let me do the same thing with like a yeah, see, same thing here. We type in mix and we get some of these other things here. Let's do material X mix. Do that. And we'll do these as colors again. So obviously you see that these material X materials aren't going to show up just by default in the viewport either. Well, if they're not in a subnetwork like that, actually, I think. So let me do this. Let me call this, instead of collect, I'll call this eagle. And that should, oh, there we go. Okay, we've got our preview surface now. That was why I wasn't doing it. So if I rename this, that's the nice thing, is that this material linker is still looking for material/eagle, and that collect works as a material in that material library. So it'll link it right back to it. So let's see. I don't know if we're going to be getting this or not, but no, it doesn't look like it. It's too bad. I was hoping that that might work on that level. I'm probably doing something. This is probably not right here on some level. Yeah, it stinks. Not getting anything. All right. Well, sorry about that. I was really hoping I would be able to just plug that in and figure it out. My apologies. All right, so let's just get rid of that again. We'll copy this down here. Is there any other like things in Material X that you guys would like to see me do or mess around with? I'm happy to try other things. Can't promise that I'll figure everything out, but as you can see. But yeah, is there anything else in Karma Material X that you would like me to do or play around with or whatever? I mean, this stuff is pretty self-explanatory as far as like it's an Uber shader kind of concept. So like, there's not a ton of different things here that we can that you maybe have never seen before. If we want to do sheen, we can turn on the sheen, turn probably down the specular there. And we can, change the sheen color maybe here to like, I don't know, something like that. This shader should be very familiar if you use anything like, honestly, even Redshift or Arnold. All of their settings are pretty similar. So sheen is going to work like that. If we turn specular off, if we want to use like a coat here, we can just get a really nice glossy coat there. If we wanted to have like a rough specular under, we could do something like this, have like a crazy, I don't know, like a color underneath there that's like a specular highlight that's hitting underneath. I don't know what exactly that might be, maybe like layers of paint or something, I don't know. So you could obviously do something like that. We could even give it a little touch in that color like that. And then we've got our specular highlights there. And then we've got a nice glossy coat on top. There's all sorts of different things you can do here with this. Sheen and coat probably don't make any sense. So the thin film, I was thinking that should give us like a... Oh, whoa. There we go. Now we're getting something. Do I need to like really like kick this down? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I need to really get a tiny value in here. I'm surprised that this isn't working. This in like if you've used Arnold before, this is usually pretty straightforward to turn on like the thin film. For some reason that's not giving me anything, which is a little strange. Usually that would give you like a weird like kind of glossy thing going on, and it looked like it did for a second, but now I'm not seeing anything. Really odd. Anyways, I'll just set these back to default. Great. Obviously, we got emission as well here, so we can add light into our scene in that instance. I don't know. It's green. Cool. Glowing green eagle statue. Yeah. So if we wanted to do metal, we could do something like that. And then we obviously would control that with the base color here. So, let me switch this back to XPU because right now we're not doing anything that needs CPU. So there we go, getting some metal looks there, something interesting. I guess the last thing we should talk about is denoisers, right? Like talk about some denoising in here. So you get pretty close with something like XPU, but if we look here, let me get back to our camera. Nice thing about using the camera view is it'll get rid of these sides, and also it will, if you're using this Karma render settings here, it'll actually look for the resolution based on computing it from the camera. So that's really nice. It'll know the aspect ratio of the camera here. If we look at view, it's going to give you the aspect ratio here, and then from that it calculates the resolution in this node here. So we could just simply set this to, if we want to do 1920 render, it'll just change like that. So now you can see here the resolution has changed. It's going to take a little longer to resolve. Not a ton longer, but a little bit. So probably turn down the SSS. There's no reason for that. And we could probably put this back to 128. Cool. Okay. So if we're in here and we want to, get some denoising going on. That is under the image output and filters. So here's our denoisers, and we have optics, which is going to denoise in the viewport really quickly. It's going to kind of go in real time with it. So you'll see it kick in a second here. And I think it has kicked in, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to turn this highlight off. Yep, looks like it's starting to smooth everything out here. Sure enough. Let me get in real close and we can probably see it start to reduce the noise. Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking of that, that's actually going to be on top of, so these buttons over here will work if you have the viewport setting here. That's right. So if we have XPU set up like this, we're using it, we could turn on the denoising just like that. And now that should show up in the viewport. Or it'll make me look like a liar again. Whatever. That's fine. Ridiculous. Unless I don't have a denoiser set in here. Huh. Yeah. Weird. I I don't know. I don't know why that isn't denoising in real time. I have always seen it do that in the past, so I'm not really sure what's going on. Usually it denoises it in real time as it's going. Maybe what I'll do is I'll restart the renderer, see if that does it. Okay, well, whatever. So that's doing an optics denoiser. Optics is really quick and good for still renders. So it's from NVIDIA. It's really useful for that. Oh, I'm probably getting a little jittery right now. Sorry, if my face is jittering around just because we're using all of my graphics card right now. If we do Intel OIDN, that is going to be the Intel denoiser, and that one works really, really great for doing anything that you need for like animation and stuff like that. That's going to work really well with the Intel OIDN. So I think that's Open Image Denoiser is what that stands for. So yeah, that is kind of how you do your denoising there. And you could obviously have it denoise other AOVs if you wanted it to, but yeah, so that is Karma right there pretty much. Any other thoughts or questions? I mean, I'm happy to like mess around with other things and like talk about how to do different setups in here and stuff like that. I don't know if there's something else you're thinking of or that you'd like for me to help you with. Oh, one thing too, if you're doing any fluid type stuff, and you're using, like you were using the old shaders from, all right, Jack's got something. One thing for me would be, I'm curious to hear. Let me keep going with what I was saying. So there is now a Karma Ocean in here, which is great. I actually haven't even seen this. Karma Ocean. Beautiful. Look at that. It's like a beautiful picture. So what you would do here, you can use this Karma Ocean for, you could use this for obviously oceans and things like that, things that have spectrum and all that kind of stuff, foam, things like that. An ocean of karma. Yeah, no, this is bringing oceans into Solaris to use in Karma. And so if you're used to any of those standard tool sets that are built in any of the shelf tools and things like that in previous versions and stuff like that, or even in the new flip tools and things like that, this Karma Ocean, you can point it to the surface geometry, you can point it to interior geometry, like your volumes that are inside of, like the way that they do oceans in Houdini is there's usually surface geometry and then there's like a volume underneath it to help with like scattering inside of it. And so these are the materials that it's looking for. And this was doable before, but there's a bunch of stuff inside of it probably that are like tricky gotcha kind of things that you wouldn't normally think to do when you're importing. So basically it's just doing all of these things at one time for you, which is really nice. And so this is great for using Flip or for oceans. So if you're doing anything with like the standard workflow that you used to use in Mantra, this is great, Karma Ocean. So just something to add into the conversation. But you were saying with doing takes or versioning, yeah, that's a great question. So one of the really cool things with Solaris is that you don't really need to do takes. In fact, I probably wouldn't, because there's a really nice feature set built in here. And so if we were done with this stuff down here, I'm just going to minimize that, right? So now we've got our... Okay, so here's our cameras, right? So let's grab, so we're in camera 1 here. I'll just lock it in. Let me go back and change that render setting just to make it a little quicker here. I'm going to keep it in CPU just because we don't really need to worry too much about it being too fast. Like this fast enough, plenty fast. Let's turn... One thing you'll notice too here is that the sampling will change for CPU. There's a lot more sampling options in here. You can do samples, quality, and different things like that. So just keep that in mind as well. Some of them are the same, but inherently they are different renderers. So yeah, I wouldn't use takes in Solaris because there's a much better way of doing things. So yeah, takes can be a pain, but honestly, I think takes in Houdini are a lot nicer than takes in some other programs that I've used in the past. So I do really appreciate that. But anyways, let me just make sure that this is set up well. I'm going to keep my Denoiser off. We don't really need to worry about that. Okay, great. So let's say we liked this render for whatever reason, and we wanted to take a snap of it. Great. There's our snap, right? So let's now go in here and change our material library, and let's change our eagle, and we're going to go back to, we'll turn the base off. We'll turn this back to doing something subsurface-y and interesting, like that. Why is that not giving me anything? Restart, please. Maybe? No? Hello? That's weird. That's officially a little strange. I must be missing something here. I'm obviously missing something very, very obvious. Oh, I wonder if this is the problem. Metal is up. Could be it. Yeah, it doesn't like having metal and subsurface at the same time. Go figure. You bunch of jerks. Let me make sure my subsurface is actually on as well here. So I'll go in here, and I will get my limits on for that so that we've got subsurface working properly. Great. You can also change the sampling quality of subsurface samples here. So that's a thing as well. So let's do this. Let's get something interesting going here that's a little bit more of... Actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll do something like that. I don't know. Ooh, that's real crazy looking. I'll just give it something interesting to scatter to. Maybe the base color is... No, I don't like that. Cool. I don't know. Something like that. And we like that. Sad I missed the stream with 3 phone calls. Yeah, it's a fun eagle, yeah. Okay, so we've got this that we're working on here, right? And we're like, all right, that's kind of interesting. Let's snap that as well. And then you're like, no, I really liked the gold eagle back here. What I can do is I can revert the network to this snapshot, and it's going to go right back to it. So that just changed all my network back. It saved the whole network settings in there. So that is the best way you could do takes in Solaris. It's like the greatest thing I think ever. It's insane that this is even possible. Like if we look in here, like my render settings are going to be back probably to what they were before. So if I look in here to limits, SSS is at 0. So this little thing right here is like a take viewer, or like a, yeah, karma F, yeah, exactly. Yes. So Solaris gives you this option. And so you could do this for technically anything. It doesn't just have to be something like this. Like say we did, we wanted, I don't know, 2 eagles in here, I guess. Like what if we had another eagle statue in here, and we had eagle statue 1. Sorry, just give me a sec. I'm going to get out of karma for a second. So it's not trying to render this. And then we have this second eagle, and we want to translate it. No, wrong way. We want to translate it over a little bit like that. And so we've got 2 eagle statues in here. I have no idea what this is going to do. Oh, I know. So we'll do this. So then we have eagle statue. I'm going to call this eagle statue 2 instead of eagle statue 1, which makes very little sense. And let's do eagle 2. And this can be, instead of subsurface, we'll do some sheen on it, right? And bring the base up. I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff without really looking at it. And let's go in here into geo. Oh, sure. Let's do eagle 2, and then we'll do eagle statue 2 in here. And let's go back to the bottom here and render it. There we go. We got 2 eagles in here. And when we snap it, it's going to obviously do that, right? So I'm pretty sure, now I could be wrong. I think this is going to go back to the way we like it, or the way it was before. So let's see if I go here and say revert network to the snapshot. Yes, it did it. So it took out that other eagle statue. So it's actually not just remembering like render settings, it's remembering network settings as well. Now, obviously, if you're doing this for something absolutely insane, like total major differences, I probably wouldn't do that. Instead, you could, like, so if we got back over to here, it's July 20th. Wow. Yeah, it sure is. It's July 20th. Welcome, Quint. It's Houdini Day. So there we go. Okay, so we're back here. Now, in Solaris, a thing that is pretty common I've seen is to do different takes just in different networks, right? Because you could have like a switch in here, right? And easily bring in different like material libraries and material linkers and things like that. And you could set up different networks that way and switch between them, right? So that's a whole nother way you could do that as well. So I feel like in Solaris, they've kind of made it so you don't really have to worry about takes. Like it's kind of like you don't need to use them. I mean, you could, I guess, but it's not really going to give you any benefit, I would say, with these other options here as well. So hopefully, Jack, that gives you something to think about when you're working in Solaris and rendering and stuff like that. Hopefully that's a yes and good. But yeah, I think these are all really cool features that are in Solaris. So you can imagine if you were doing like some different scattering setups or whatever, and you wanted to like, okay, I like this, and then you're going to go do something else to like scatter a bunch of things and like see what that looks like. You could technically save those two different workflow, those two different looks, and then save them in your snapshot gallery here, and then load up the the different versions of it. So yeah, when it's 4 a.m. and you're not thinking. Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing too is that that should save with your scene. So actually, in fact, speaking of saving with my scene, should probably save it. Oops. Do as I say, not as I do. Let's see. Let's call this appearance choice. Cool. Well, hopefully that's something interesting for everybody to kind of understand and get some a little different sense of how to do some rendering in Houdini. The other thing too that's really cool is, I know I've talked about it before, but there is the scene import node. So if you've been doing everything in SOPs and like object world and stuff like that, you can do a scene import all, and that'll just literally bring in everything from your object context. And it'll bring in lights, it'll bring in all sorts of stuff. So if you have stuff, Houdini based stuff, not third party lighting or whatever, it'll bring it all in and convert it to, Solaris elements and things like that, into USD lights and materials. It'll bring in materials. Yep. So the only problem is obviously it won't be Karma materials. It won't be Material X materials. It'll just be like principled shaders, things like that. So you wouldn't probably be bringing in Karma stuff from object level because nothing over there works with Material X. So so cool. Hopefully that's like a good little Karma, update on where everything sits. Sorry I couldn't get the curvature shader working. I'm going to look into that and see if I can figure that out. So yes, all functionality must pass that test. Unfortunately, I don't think all functionality in Houdini does, because if you're using volumes, that turns into a real mess, can turn into a real mess real quick. But anyways. Oh, on that topic, why don't I take just a quick sidetrack before we look at any other like labs tools and stuff like that. Let's take a look at the new Pyro instancing, which is unbelievably cool. I was playing around with it this afternoon, and it is so great. So if you haven't used Pyro yet, this might be a reason for you to want to do it. So, all right, let me load up my other scene here. Let me just pull this up. Not right now. Thank you. I don't want to launch I don't want to install a new version of my launcher at this moment. But yeah, all the volumetric stuff. If you bring those sizes down in your VDB settings, you bring the scale down, man, you get smoked real quick. All right, so this is something I built earlier, so we'll just walk through it. I won't bore you with like how to build it, kind of a thing. Not that it's boring, but it's just totally not necessary to go through, I would say. So, let me set this back to my single screen view because I had it on double screen. All right, so here is the setup. So they have reworked Pyro instancing, or like sourcing Pyro stuff in a way that you can almost do it like copy to points. So previously, it sounds like I'm talking about like a movie or something like that. Previously on this, the way that you worked with Pyro in SOP's level was that you obviously had to make your sources, and if you wanted to have like multiple things happening at the same time, they all had to be in like a VDB that was all, self-contained and stuff. Like you wouldn't randomly have all these VDBs that you're just like merging together. And it's like, it wouldn't have made sense totally to do that. It just was a different way of working. You'd need to have all your sources happening at the same time. Now there's an instancing source that works really, really well. And I think it's only going to work better and better. So now there's this idea of packing Pyro sources. And if you don't understand all of this, we can always go into a deeper dive on this later. But I just want to show you this just to get your brains kind of going on it, because it was pretty exciting for me. So if you guys haven't played around with any of these Pyro tools, they're really fun. This is like the Pyro trail path. Then it makes sources on there, that'll make, that we're going to source our volume from. So then we'll do a volume rasterize attributes of it. And there we go. There's our source coming in. And then this Pyro source pack will actually not only pack from the standpoint of like individual frames packed to a point. I believe what it's doing is it's packing all of the time-based stuff together as well, and it's packing it into this like frame range right here. See, it's got 1 to 33. So each of these different Pyro sources, I called this one trails. The next one over is like a burst source here. So these are all just like shelf tools. I didn't like do anything interesting really. So this just makes VDB, and then this makes a fireball, and this is from 1 to 12. And we can set up which sources are coming in here. These are just the defaults. Some of them didn't need all of them. This one did. This one's a shockwave, so I didn't need it. I just did temperature, density, and actually I did leave that in. I don't technically need flame. There is no flame in here if I'm remembering correctly. Yep, no flame. So this is a shockwave, and it just makes like points that like go like that out. I didn't really do anything interesting with this. I just kind of left it. It makes just like a shockwave, and then that gets saved as shockwave. And then here I have a sphere that I just scaled up a little bit and did a Pyro source, and I'm sourcing from the volume here. Then adding some attributes like randomizing the temperature and burn. Yeah, I mean, this is technically the way, the updated way to do this is doing is to use points to rasterize your attributes this way. This is like the official Houdini way of doing it. I mean, you can certainly do things differently. I mean, there's older ways of doing things and there's older tool sets, but this is like the most up to date. I forget when they updated all the Pyro stuff like that. It might have been 18.5, something like that. But yeah, you could still do it the old way too. There's some performance benefits, I think, but totally valid. So anyway, so this one I just called Flame 17. Wow, was that long ago? Jeez. There you go, 17. So this is kind of the weird part, is merging all these together. It just seems like an absolute mess, like what is happening here? So this is merging them all together. Then you have this Pyro. You basically just make a null and call it just whatever you want to call it, and that's like the library that it's going to look at. So this is your library of Pyro elements. Basically, you can see here there's trails, fireball, shockwave, flame, and then these are the source rules. So this is like a whole dictionary attribute. So anytime you see this where you've got like two things that are like linked together like this, that's like a dictionary. So here the source, whatever this activate is one, direction guy, I don't know, blend. There's all these different things in here that they're setting basically with these Pyro source packs. And so then this Pyro library goes into a Pyro source instance, and then the other side of that gets points. So here I just literally took a super simple thing. I scattered a bunch of points. I'll turn this down because it's a little crazy at first. So we'll just, that's not, it can handle 150 points, no problem. But so there's 25 points right there scattered, nothing fancy. Put an up, normal just in the up direction. This starts to like set the spawning of sources. So you can see here, if I just wanted one source, I could set it to be fireball, or I could set groups up here, like on the scattered points. I could set groups and then select, I want this group to be this source, and then have another one down a little further and select another group. But instead I wanted to go a little bit more like procedural with it. I didn't want to be like specifically saying like, hey, this group gets this and this group gets this. So the only thing I did here was deleted the name attribute after this, because this sets a name attribute on the points right here, fireball. So I deleted that because I wanted to use this attribute from pieces. If you do copy, if you use copy to point with like variants, this attribute from pieces is the way that you would set up your different variants, and you can set up weighting and things like that. So like here, we can see my piece attribute is going to just be name. I'm just randomly selecting them. And then down here, I have the number of pieces. And if I clear this out, it'll just look to this static frame right here, and try to figure out what pieces there are based on the name coming in here, which this has a name attribute as well here. And so it finds those, and I can weight these as well. So I could turn like, I want less of the shockwave. I want even less of the trails, and maybe a little less of the fireball, something like that. So now those will be my weights for how it's randomly selecting on these points here. So now if I look, this will have all these names in here, right? So now those are the sources from over here that are going to get linked together basically. So I just did an start offset. This is the, you can offset the start time of it. So I'm just basically offsetting when these are going to start instancing, like sourcing into my sim. This is so I can take this scatter and align, and just like I would with a copy to points, I can change the rotation of them. So if we look at this will show, you can see on my, it might be kind of hard to see on the stream, but you can see my axes here are all randomly rotated. So it's going to make sure that all of those sources are rotated around in different ways. And then this I just did for fun because the flames kind of emit for a little bit. So I wanted them to wiggle around. So any of the flame ones get this like wiggly attribute added to it, because I did name equals flame, which are all those, and those move around. So you'll see how that looks interesting in a second. So then this just instances those sources on there. And this is kind of the thing that's doing the almost like copy to point situation. And then you just spit this into a Pyro solver. And I'll just up this a little bit. So you can see here, I have this in minimal OpenCL, and this is like the fastest way to like preview it and do all that kind of stuff. But it will look at these sources and instance them in, and you'll see it'll take a second to build it at first, but then it'll start going. Hopefully I won't like glitch out too much. But I mean, it's pretty sick. It's so fast, like to source all this stuff in here. and that's like 25 sources that are just randomly getting selected and scattered in there and everything. I mean, this is test scene. There's nothing interesting happening here. But if I push this even further, say I want to do 150. So now you can see I've got 150 source points in here. And now we have Apocalypse Now. Is that the name of that one movie? I'm probably a little jittery because my graphics card is going quite a bit. But yeah. So, I mean, not too bad for for what is this, 38 million voxels, just going at about 12 frames a second. And yeah, it's pretty smooth working situation here, and we can put our Pyro look on the bottom here. Now obviously that's going to take a little longer to calculate out. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing to do. This Pyro bake thing here helps a little bit. The only problem is if you're using the scatter, that'll really slow it down. So the way that this minimal OpenCL works, it's so real. I'm kind of triggered. Yeah, right. It's like America. I should have had the eagle in the middle of it. That would make more sense. Sorry, too political. I shouldn't get political. So the real thing that you're working with here is you're dealing with this is all happening obviously on the GPU when you're using the minimal OpenCL solver. It's basically loading that whole block of data in and then simming on it really quickly. So you won't get some features in there when you're doing the minimal OpenCL, but it'll give you I was able to dial in, like if you look at the details here, there's like some like breakup happening on the front end of these Pyro, like these kind of like plumes and stuff that I was able to dial in with the shape here with disturbance like insanely quickly, because I was like watching it over and over like once every 10 seconds I was seeing the same thing happen again and again. So it was so fast to iterate through. And then if you wanted to get into using something like the actual sparse solver, you can switch over to that. Now this is going to go insanely slow comparatively. It's not going to go fast at all, but this is going to be the more full-featured version that's going to work exactly like one-to-one like you'd expect from a normal Pyro solver. So that's kind of the way to like look dev a Pyro sim and then switch it over to this. And I mean this isn't going like insane. I mean like a Pyro sim with this many voxels is gonna you're gonna take quite a few frames to like simulate it and everything. Like you don't expect it to be done in a second, but having this instancing is great because it'll get you to that final stage way faster, and then you can start getting your final sims out and do stuff like that. So you could even do something with those points, like in the X position, have them go like bombs going like you could do something like that just by offsetting them based on an X position or something like that. So there's a ton of things you could do with that. And like, for example, if I did this, if I turned everything down except for the flame, they're all going to be the flame geometry now. So if I did the same thing here, now they're only those those balls of fire that are kind of flying around. So you can just see how quickly you could totally change your scene around here with super simple stuff. Like if I wanted those, instead have fireballs and then shockwaves, a little bit more, and then mostly shockwaves and trails. Now we're going to have more of the shockwaves and trails and a few fireballs in there. So I mean, it is super fast to be able to make these updates and changes, and it's crazy comparatively to how sourcing things might have worked in the past. So anyways, that's a fun little aside. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but I think that's really fun and super exciting. There was some stuff about that in the release video that came out today. So take a look at that, and you can see some other like really nice renders and things like that they did. But this is more explosive looking. But yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions or any thoughts, or I don't know if you have any thoughts that I would be happy to answer them, or we can jump into something completely different. Cool. Well, I can just leave that open in the background. It's not gonna hurt anything. Great. All right, so let's go back to our object context here, and I will go back to single screen like that. Great. And let's take a look at some tools. One of the things that was really cool was the curve tool. If I can type. Oh, that's right. Now they have different versions of it. I think we want to do Bezier. I think it's all the same. It just depends on if it's a Bezier curve to start or not. That's right. So let's draw some points here and see what we can do. So this was one of the new things that they talked about. All right, there we go. And we got our grid there. And I believe if we take, let's see here. C. Make auto. Yep, that's right. So I need to select those. How do I select? Yes, this is working great. This is going great, guys. Just trying to hit the right keys. Okay, cool. That's the orient stuff. Cool. I think what I want to do is do this. Edit points. Can I do that? No. Mode. No. I just want to select them all. Can I do select them all? Do I just do... No. Huh. That's weird. That's not right. Is it just this that no? I saw him do it on the... Oh, now they're all... Are they all selected now? You gotta be kidding me. Make auto. There we go. So now these are like these auto curves. Jeez. So I can kind of grab these segments, and obviously these aren't gonna... This is gonna freak out, but it's gonna try to do its best to make sure that these... Oh, I see. I'm pulling them up in space. So that's not great. But it's going to do its best to make sure that these are like keeping to their, like you can grab them just by their segments and stuff like that and move them around and do things like that. I mean, it's obviously not like completely just like do whatever you want with them, but you know, it's kind of a neat thing to change into it. Today you've got internet issues? Oh my gosh. Sorry, I passed them to you. Oh gosh. Let me guess, you have cable internet? Like everyone in America has? Or if you're not in America, then I guess you might not. You might actually have good internet, but I'm so sick of cable internet. I just want to nuke the entire cable industry. It's the worst. I have Spectrum and it's good gracious. It's horrible. Anyways, so let's just do something like a sweep. I think that one would be good. And we can do, let's do like let's do a ribbon. Sorry. Let's do a ribbon. And I'll do a, oh, it does not need to have that many columns on it. There we go. That's a problem. Cool. So we've got like a ribbon here, right? So we could do that and we can just give it some width like that. Great. And so what we should be able to do is go into here. And if we go into orient mode, we should be able to grab one of these points. Yep, great. It's going great. Everything's going great here, guys. There we go. I see. Toggle target orient point. There we go. If I do shift click, I see. So this should be able to now give us control over this. And like, not that there was ever like a real issue here before, but I mean, good Lord, this is just so nice comparatively. Like you can just go through, grab your points. It's going to calculate the, so if I do there we go. Shift and right click maybe. There we go. That's the one you want. So now I can just add these things in like this. We can just give all these orients the way we want them. I mean, this is so much nicer. Oh, wow. Yeah, mobile data based on where you're living, no internet. Yep, gotcha. Well, best of luck. Good luck. Good luck with your internet tonight. I know the feeling. So, yeah, this is kind of like the new curve situation here, and it's pretty nice. Like, just to be able to make like some really simple, I mean, it's nothing crazy. I'm not doing anything insane, but like there, we wanted to make some geometry and have it like move around in some moderately interesting way. You know, we can do all sorts of fun stuff here. So like in this case, if we wanted it to like really bank up and crazy like that, we could do something like that. You know, it's all on the table here. But this is the new curve kind of workflow that they've built in with these orients, which is just so nice. So you can obviously see this is adding an up and a tangent to the curve here. If we look, we're getting up and we're getting tangents here. And so those are the blue, and then the up is the green. And so that's providing, you know, most tools should be able to see that and use those situations to create whatever, you know, you might be looking to create. So really, that's a really nice new feature there. And obviously I'm just doing very simple stuff with it, but you know, I was watching them do that and I was thinking, oh, it'd be really cool to make like, I really like roller coasters. I know that's a weird thing to say, but as a kid, I used to be obsessed with them. And so I really just love the design of roller coasters. And so I would love to make like a thing where I could like just procedurally make a roller coaster and have it like put in the supports and all that stuff. I've seen some people do things similar to that, but I was just thinking about that today, like how cool that would be with using Houdini and stuff. So anyways, so that's the new curve features. So that's pretty nice. You get some nice handles, and yeah, obviously this looks miserable here, but when you look at the curve just by itself, it is nice. Let's see what the labs tools are that we have. Oh God, there's too many now. Labs, you have so many things you've done. Trying to think of the one that they were talking about. The brain's starting to shut off. Let me think. What do you guys have any do you guys remember any of the ones that they talked about in the excuse me, in the presentation? I'm trying to remember personally. Oh, polyscalpel was one. That's kind of interesting. I want to actually check that out. Cutting geometry. Cool. Yeah, I want to try this out. I want to see what this is like. All right, so we're going to do some more curves here and see. If you guys think of something, remind me of what you were thinking. I can't remember what some of the labs tools were. Just kind of blanking. I think the brain's starting to shut off a little bit. So let's see. We'll just do some curves here. Something like this. I don't even know. Oh, you know what? I'll just do auto Beziers. G. There we go. We'll just do auto Beziers. I don't really need it to be anything too fancy. Great. Let's do another curve. Like, oh, that's interesting. Was not expecting it to be in that plane. Must have been too far to the side. Maybe this will work better. Is that on the ground? Yeah, it must have just been too far to the side. That's funny. All right, so we'll put that. Oops, put that in here. Don't need them in both. And then let's do another curve and see how this works. All right, so let's do another, switch this over to Auto Bezier again. I'm just gonna put that on and we'll just see how this cuts across. This should be interesting. I don't know, we'll see what this does. Okay, we got two curves, both on the ground plane. Let's see what happens here. Polylines. Polylines. What do we have? Okay. Ah, that's the problem. Probably if I do this, it's going to be happier. Convert it to a line. Oh, let's do this. Resample here. And then convert it to a line. I think it'll be happier with that. Oh. I just dropped some frames. Sorry if anybody missed something there. I dropped a couple frames. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. Great. Love that. Love dropping frames. All right. So hopefully this is right because we want it to be polygons. So let's see. Oh, that looks like it's doing something now. Might want to turn these things off. Might be doing too much. All right. Let's see what we got here. Anything? Anything? Okay, okay. What if I do this? If I do an exploded view, is that going to give me anything? Let's see. If I do this to give it some names, will that... Ooh, before Houdini 19. Let me take a look at that. I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that, if what has changed there, but oh yeah. Okay. This looks like this is working. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, guys, it's really doing some stuff now. I don't know about that. That seems wrong there. Well, if that's the only issue is right here, maybe that's because I have a... Oh, no. I don't know. Well, that's not bad. I can live with that one little issue there. Oh, yeah. That is great. Actually, you know what I can do? I can just do this. I'll do connectivity here, and then we'll do a class on the points, and I will grab that, and we can visualize that. He said we should be able to visualize it. I don't know why not seeing it like that. That's weird. Let's see. What if we do it on primitive? Oh, that's the problem. It's all giving the same class. That's hysterical. I can do this. enumerate over the primitives. Now those will have indexes. We'll use index instead. Yay, there we go. Cool. So each of those have different, that's tough to see, sorry. Background. Let's maybe do the gray. Ooh, nope. I didn't turn the fancy one on. There we go. We can see all the different colors there. So there we go. We cut it with those things. That was pretty cool. Oh, that's nice. I like that a lot. Cool. Okay, so let me look at what you said again here. So before Houdini 19, when you resample a curve stop out and set the interpolation to smooth, it works. But in Houdini 19 or later, it doesn't make smooth interpolation. Do you have any clue how to solve this issue? Yeah, let's take a look. So here's a curve stop, right? And we're resampling it, right? Like that. Let me make this a little bit bigger, just so we can see the points, what are happening here. Okay, so what about this is not doing what you would expect it to, I guess? Is there something here that you're seeing or you're experiencing that seems different from how you would expect it to work? I feel like it's working pretty well. If I do... Well, there's not really going to be anything that's going to change here between subdivision or interpolating curves. I'm just curious what difference you would hope for that to do, because I'm just outputting a Bezier curve here into the resample. I've got it set to like 3.3. I'll just round it to 3. But yeah, it seems like it's working, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what issue you're mentioning there. If you have an example of that, if you're kind of having a hard time explaining what you're seeing, you can if you're on our Discord, you can go to here. I'll just type our. There is our link to the website, and there's a Discord link on there, and you could join our Discord channel, and you could drop some. We have like a little section for like help on there, like if you're running into an issue or whatever, and you want to have some help, you could always just drop it in there, and like say, you could send an example file as well, like, hey, this isn't doing what I would expect it to here, I have noticed sometimes if you're bringing in what is it? I think if I had a Bezier curve. No, see, this actually has like the handles on it here. You can see all the points and stuff. So could be a bug, I guess, that you could have been experiencing in a certain build of it. That's possible. But yeah, I do not know beyond that. So if you want to try on the Discord to kind of, drop in the chat there, like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. We could probably take a look at it there. I'm happy to try to do it now too. But if it's taking you a little bit of time to formulate your thoughts, that's no problem. Also, chat is only so fast, so I understand that. Cool. Well, that's cool. I'm going to keep going. If you do drop your comment in there, I will stop and take a look at it. Let's see, labs. There was another one I wanted to look at, and it was, I'm guessing it's under the geo, and it would be oh, pardon me. I guess it's not in here. World building. Oh, I wonder if it's in here. Let me try this. Labs UV. It's got to be one of those, right? Yeah, there it is. Polywire UV. Cool. Okay. So let's see. What if we do... Oh, I don't know. Let's do something really ridiculous. Let's just do... Oh, you know what? Actually, we could probably do one of these trees. What is this like? I'm trying to remember what these things are all like. Oh, it needs a guide curve for that one. Tree... Okay, we got black going on in here. That's fun. I'm gonna change the viewport back. I do like the gray viewport. I should install that again. We got a trunk. Let's do branch. Let's check one more thing here. What is this? Curved branches. What is this? Huh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, anyway, sorry. Getting sidetracked here. All right, so there's our tree trunk. There's our tree branches. Cool. Let's just do another one. Yeah, that's a great looking tree. All right, whatever. We're good. Let's throw this in here. See what we get. Okay, so we get our poly wire here like that. And then I believe, let's see what happens here. Null. Okay, so that's pretty much just that kind of a situation there. Let me see here. Tree controller. That's what I wanted. That should go over here. Ah, yes. Much better. Much better looking tree. I forgot you need the controller to make it actually do some stuff. So, okay. So we got this. What we could do here, I don't know why this is there a width attribute maybe here that I'm missing? Let's take a look here. Radius looks like it's a thing. Just pin that for a second. Okay. Nice. Now we're getting our mesh here, and this is what I think they this is more or less what they did in the yeah, whatever, the release video. Couldn't think. Then I think what they did was a rig pose. Is that what they did? Oh wow. That's way too many. Way too many things. Let's see. Let's resample that. Let's see here. Yeah. So that's the problem. We got to reset those pivots. But this is more or less the concept here. You'd be able to, you know, do this and then, what is it? Joint deform, I want to say. Yep, something like this. I thought. There's a couple more things you got to do here, but it's more or less something like that. But this is cool. It gives you nice, you know, normals and things like that on your polywire, and you've got some, you know, different stuff here that you can play around with, like the angles of everything. Pretty fancy. Wow, got a lot of options here. So that's cool. That's the that is the new polywire UV, so that's pretty neat. Oh, right there for KineFX. I don't know if that is exactly what we need, but oh yeah, you need to do a capture or something like that here. You need to be able to do like a joint capture like that, I think. Oh, yeah, let me just loop those together. Sorry. That ain't gonna work. Just want to clear those errors if I can. Sometimes just diving into the network will do that, but in this case, nope. No dice. All right, let's just get rid of that guy. Maybe I'm using the wrong one. For some reason, I thought the biharmonic one is a good one to use, but maybe not. Okay. Seems like we're in some sort of weird loop here. There we go. Just do proximity fine. Okay. Oh, I'm sure my good friend Michael could help me with this. I'm sure I'm missing something incredibly simple, but as you can tell, I am not an expert in KineFX. Yeah, that's not working. But I'll have to look at what they did in the setup that they showed. See exactly how to make that work. But polywire UV, it's kind of neat. Neat new node. It's cool that it gives you the curves afterwards as well. So you could throw something in there that was like, you know, that was not a tree like this that had curves already, but you know, you could throw in anything from motion graphics or whatever and just have things that are like moving around and stuff. And you could always come back in and do, you know, these kind of like rig post stuff with it where you could, you know, tweak things after the fact, because this is a kind of a neat way to be able to turn like curves into a rig really quick. That's the kind of beauty of KineFX. And you could, you know, you could add secondary motion to things. You could add, you know, different physics and ragdolls and different things like that. So kind of a cool idea to be able to add to any curve-based geometry. And once you have the capture working, you could have that then deform. If they showed it in the video today. So yeah, if you guys haven't watched that, I would really recommend going and checking out some of the new features in that video. Scott and I think, well, Scott mainly goes through all this stuff, but he does a really nice job of demoing everything and showing what's going on. But anyways, anybody have any last thoughts that they'd like for me to address or anything like that? I think we're coming to the end here of our evening together, about 2 hours. So not only is it 1,000,000 degrees in this room, but it's 84 degrees outside for us here in Buffalo, which is very warm for us. We're not used to it being this warm. Probably if you're in anywhere else, that seems tame for the summertime, but we are sweltering. And I've got a heater in here rendering and simming and doing things with me. So I'm excited to be able to leave the room and cool down a little bit in the near future. So anyways, yeah, any last thoughts, anything you'd like me to clear up a little bit? Obviously I didn't explain this well, but I guess you sort of get the idea relatively. But yeah, I'm always learning new things about Houdini. You'll never know everything. So I'm doing my best. Cool. Great, Jack. Glad you were able to get something out of it. And like I said, next week, I'm planning to do the flip fluids and really dive into that. That's why I didn't cover that today, because I think it's a really neat new workflow. It's very different in a lot of ways from the way flip worked before. But it's really nice that it doesn't take quite as much to get that to work. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a much nicer workflow for everybody to be able to start to use that in SOPs. So that's my plan for next week. And I think that's it for today. So thank you all for watching and for tuning in. Thank you for, commenting and chatting and stuff like that. Really makes it more fun for me, and hopefully it makes it more valuable for you guys to be able to have, be able to get your questions answered, hopefully pointed in some decent direction. And like I said, if you guys aren't on the Discord, go to HoudiniHangout.com and join up in the Discord there. You can make suggestions for different, topics for streaming. I'll always do my best to try to do as many as I can. Obviously, there's a lot of topics in there now, which is great, kind of a huge grab bag for me. So there's some really cool stuff in there that we can learn from and look at. And if you guys need help with anything, you can always feel free to drop it in the help part of the help channel in there. And I'll try to help you out, or other people might be able to help you out. I mean, that's the cool thing about having multiple people working, more brains, you're able to figure stuff out better. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. And again, hopefully you'll join us next week to do some flip fluids. I'm kind of starting to think that maybe Wednesday might be a better day for me to stream on. For some reason, it seems like the internet's more stable on these days. So maybe my internet friend or my neighbors aren't all uploading their 2 terabytes of data every Tuesday or something. Maybe they're not doing that on Wednesday. So kind of thinking I might be switching over to Wednesdays because it just seems way better. So I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't really mess anybody up too much, but it seems to work for me. So I will post online and let you guys know what the plan is for next week. But for now, that's it for me. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good night. Bye.